Hello everyone, welcome. I'm Norbert Gálik, the Vice President of IATEFL-Hungary. And as our first guest in Eger, we've got Michael Carrier. Welcome. Thank you for accepting our invitation. It was lovely to see your session, plenary session. In this short talk, we're going to talk about first of all, your plenary session, of course, the main points, the highlights. And then, of course, we're going to talk about your IATEFL-Hungary experiences and any plans you've got, any upcoming projects at British Council, personal projects that you have. Okay. So, but before we start the interview, I'd like to thank the British Council Hungary for sponsoring this interview and Eger Online in general. We've got our very own live blog, egeronline.wordpress.com, which you can visit for the latest updates, roving reporters, reports, interviews, free downloadable materials, and a lot more. So please visit us online and share your comments, share your ideas. And this is all sponsored by British Council Hungary. So thank you again. So Michael, you're the head of English language innovation at British Council. Am I right?
Yes, my role is innovation and partnership development, and we have other people doing innovation as well. What we're trying to do is to make sure that we can develop new ways of supporting teachers and learners of English around the world. That's one of our key missions. So when we talk about innovation, we're talking about developing new materials, new resources, new technologies, which we then share with teachers. Sometimes we share them directly individually through the website, which many people are familiar with. Sometimes we share them through systemic projects. So we work with the Ministry of Education in a particular country, and we help create new curriculum or create new materials that go into that curriculum, or teacher training. We do a lot of teacher training development, so we're innovating in teacher training as well where we can. And a lot of the work that we do is in partnerships, either setting up a partnership with a ministry, for example, which is the logical thing to do, obviously, for English language teaching, but also with big corporations who are very keen to be supportive of educational development, which includes English, but also broader education. So we work with a lot of them as well.
Okay, in your session, your plenary session, you focused on mobile learning and incorporating the latest technology in teaching English or any foreign languages. And there was a very interesting point that you made, that the general expectations in education and learning have changed a lot in the last few years. Could you briefly tell the viewers?
Well, I think there's different expectations from different people at different times. First of all, the learners have different expectations because young people, very young people, see the world through their own experience. And there's kind of a technological divide between what they do every day with their own phones or computers or whatever, and sometimes the more conservative or more traditional approach of their teachers or of the schools. And so they find it a little bit demotivating, I think, when they go into class or go into school and they can't do the same things. I mean, it seems silly for a young person to say, okay, I have to go and get a dictionary from the other side of the room and look through the dictionary. I could just use my phone and check it quickly. You know, why can't I use that same technology that I would use at home?
And a lot of teachers' first response is, could you switch off your mobile phones?
Sure. And I understand that because there is the danger of distraction and people sending messages and texts. That's why I was focusing a lot, we're trying in the professional development to focus more on handheld devices, handheld learning, because mobiles, because of the phone system, can be distracting. But handheld tablets or small laptops like the one you have, they're not distracting in the same way because we can control them and we can switch off any connection to phone or internet. So it's a question of making sure that the infrastructure that the school has and the teacher has allows us to use these things and meet expectations of the students and make it seem more up to date without them being allowed to check their email while they're listening to the class. But the other kind of expectation that you referred to was also the expectation of the external world, the outside world. And I talked a little bit about 21st Century Skills, the book that came out, and I was just with the author a couple of days ago in Colombia. We did a conference on on 21st century education for ministries of education in Latin America, and he talked about 21st century skills. And where this idea came from originally is that the big employers, the big corporations are saying, you know, we want young people who've got a different kind of skill set. We want people who are global, who can work with teams containing people from not just Hungary or Europe, but India and America. We need people who have a different outlook on life and who are very team-oriented and collaborative. And therefore we need the schools to develop these skills. And I think that part of this should come into the English classroom, because English is the tool that you need to be a global citizen. And we want to develop global citizens. That makes our lives more exciting. You know?
I totally agree with you. I had one question in my mind throughout your session. Do we have the teachers and the teachers with the necessary skills to kind of prepare our students for the 21st century? So are they trained?
Well, that's a very good question. And I don't know sufficiently how teachers are trained here in Hungary, but it's not necessarily just the training that people get at the beginning of their careers. I think what's probably more important is the training, the development that people go through as a personal development, as a professional development through their careers. So even if teachers don't have access to this kind of new skill or new technology when they are doing their initial training, I think they should take a personal interest themselves in developing their own skills over their career. And hopefully one can get the system, you know, the government, the education ministry, we can get them engaged and interested and support the teachers. Now in many countries, including Hungary, there is a kind of compulsory teacher development program. In Hungary you have to do 120 hours of approximately every 7 years, right? Now at the moment that's quite open. So what we would like to try and suggest is that some of these technology developments should become part of that 120 hours to help teachers to gain new skills and to gain confidence so that they can do this. Because probably in most European countries, when people are training at the university, they're doing a more traditional approach, you know, studying linguistics and second language acquisition and classroom methodology. They don't usually have enough time to do slightly broader things, the ones that we were talking about. So hopefully through teacher development programs, we in the council and also lots of other organizations who do this can offer teachers something to grow. But it all has to come from the teacher.
Yeah.
The teacher has to want to do it.
That's the next point I want to make, is that I had a quick chat with one of my colleagues right after your session, and she asked me, how can we do this if, for example, the teacher doesn't have the money or doesn't have the motivation to buy a handheld mobile, a smartphone, let's say, or an iPad? Because this particular teacher I talked to, she said that 1/3 of her classes, on average, they don't have a mobile smartphone, for example, and she doesn't have her own.
Sure.
So
but that means 2/3 of the students do have.
Yeah, that's true.
So, because if you divide them into groups, then you only need one between two people. So you can still do something using that kind of activity. And I bet she has a phone.
I guess so. Yeah.
Right? So she may not have a smartphone right now, but she will soon. Because the prices are dropping so much, and the little tablets, like the iPads are ridiculously expensive, right? But the successor or the competition to iPads is a fraction of the price, right? I mean, just today, an iPad costs $500 approximately. I don't know how much in Florence, but you can go to Google has their own tablet which costs $150. And in China and India, they're mass producing inexpensive ones that cost about $35, $50. So it'll become so inexpensive that it will not be a problem. I understand in the short term it might still be difficult. But the more important question you just raised, though, is the motivation of the teacher. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't cost anything to read the newspaper or to go online and look at websites about technology or about education. It doesn't cost anything to read books, really. There's lots of opportunity to change your engagement with your profession that don't cost money, and sometimes you can bring that into the classroom in different ways. I mean, I always used to say to people in the early days of the internet, I would give talks like this one about how to use the internet in the classroom, and people would say, "Well, we don't have the connection. You know, we don't have I said, well, fine, just print out the website on a piece of paper. At least you've got some way of bringing the real world into the classroom. And for me, that's one of the crucial things. It's the real world. That's why we're teaching English.
Yeah, authentic materials.
Yeah.
And we'll link that to Steve Oakes' session, which he had yesterday. Okay, I have two final questions for you, Michael. One is that I'm hesitant myself. I'm devoted to professional development, and I'm planning to do a course in online tutoring in January. But I'm still undecided. I mean, I'm not sure that the future is online teaching, or whether I could do the same things in an online classroom, things I do face-to-face in the real world. So just in 2-3 sentences, how could you convince people like me to do online teaching, for example?
Well, I think the crucial thing is that you want to keep the best of what you do face-to-face in the classroom, but you want to learn as a professional, you want to learn how the online experience can add something. It's not replace, but add a little bit. And the best way to do that is to be a student. The most important thing about the course that you're talking about participating in is for you to go and experience as a learner being in an online learning environment.
So kind of a loop input.
It's kind of a loop input, exactly. So you learn about how you could teach somebody online by experiencing the learning online. I had a very experience in my last job. I ran the International House group of schools, and we introduced, in about 2002-03, we introduced online teacher training using Moodle. And a lot of people, especially the trainers, were very skeptical. So I gave them the opportunity to go through something like the e-moderating or e-tutoring course as learners. And after that, their skepticism had gone away because they realized, having experienced it personally, what value it could bring. And it's always additive. It's not taking things away from the face-to-face experience. It's adding something in additional. It's, you know, it's a parallel. It's another skill in our armory of skill sets.
Okay, one final question. We've got lots of non-members watching us online now, and probably later on YouTube and our blog. Why do you think coming to a conference organized by IATEFL-Hungary is worth the time and the money?
Well, I think that's a very good question. I'm shocked that there are teachers in Hungary who are not members of IATEFL. That's very, very shocking. I think it's really important as a teacher to spend time with your peers, with your professional colleagues, because you learn so much, not just from the sessions. Sometimes the sessions give you ideas, sometimes you know this already, but the interaction with your peers inside the sessions, the question and answer, the discussions, the time over lunch and over dinner, the social networking, I think is really important. I go to lots of IATEFL conferences, the main one in the UK, and then national ones like this, which is wonderful. And I think that every time I walk away, I feel inspired because I've learned something, or I've had a new idea, maybe completely at a tangent from what the presenter was talking about, but something has sparked a new idea. Or talking to somebody yesterday evening, walking around Eger, we went for a drink with a group of Hungarian colleagues, and it's about learning from your peers and learning about the profession that you've chosen to do, and feeling more comfortable, feeling more inspired, feeling more knowledgeable about what you do every day. So it's a great feeling, and so it's definitely worth coming. Obviously, if you can't travel, then watching it online is helpful, but the best thing is to be here and get to spend time with people.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, thanks a lot for coming. It was lovely talking to you, and see you later.
See you next year.
Sessions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.